Behind me is Germany's top-ranked university. I had the unique privilege of studying here for my master's, but I can't help but wonder sometimes whether it was worth it. We're going to change that today. To help answer this question, we're going to look at three things. Number one, the application process. Number two, the exams. And number three, the student life. As an international student, I thought I was at a disadvantage. I did not have a German education system background, I barely knew the language, and at the same time, I was applying to the top-ranked university in Germany. But sitting around and doing nothing was not really helping, so I got to work. You see, the thing about German universities is that they're very, very specific about what you should have studied in your bachelor's if you're applying for your master's. I looked up several of TUM's courses on their website, but one of them uniquely stood out. The Masters in Management and Technology program excited me for two reasons. Number one was it combined business logic with the newest technologies, and at the same time, it was a continuation of what I'd studied in my bachelor's, which was management science. There was only one problem though. I didn't really know if I fulfilled all the requirements for the program. What I'd heard from people before me was that regardless of if one component of your application, let's say your GPA was really good, if you did not fill the course requirements, you would be rejected. Now, to be honest, this was a bit scary because I hadn't really actively planned my courses up until my senior year for applying to German universities. But at first glance, it did seem that I'd taken the required math, computer science, quantitative methods, and economics courses. But lo and behold, there was another gaping hole in my CV, which was that I hadn't taken the GMAT examination. To add to these problems, you could not give the GMAT examination in the city that I lived in. So I booked the equivalent of a Flixbus, shout out Daewoo Express, went to another city and gave my GMAT examination. Alongside this, I also had to write a short research essay. Interestingly, this was different than a motivation letter like it is for most universities. And the topic was something along the lines of supplying Europe with solar energy from North Africa. Coincidentally, this is really good timing because I'm at the LMU. LMU is also a top-ranked university in Germany. At the time, I also applied to other universities in Germany, and none of them had the GMAT requirement. They had other requirements, but none of them had the GMAT or the research essay requirement. And I was still questioning whether or not it was worth it to go through all this extra effort just for this one place. But after a few weeks, when I got my GMAT result, I realized that I'd passed the threshold score needed to get into TUM. So then I just prayed and sent my documents. In the meantime, I'd already received acceptances from 4 other German universities, but the one that I was really looking forward to was TUM. And that changed on December 21st, 2022. I still remember I looked at my email sometime in the evening and I was over the moon to look at the acceptance letter. Looking back, yes, the admission cycle was really taxing at times. I had to take the GMAT examination, which took a few months to prepare for, and at the same time, I also had to write a research essay. But looking back, it was all worth it. Let's now look at the second chapter, which is examinations. Some people rightfully say that it's much more difficult to stay in TUM than it is to get into TUM. And I find that to be true on a lot of levels. Let me give you a bit more context. You see, the thing about German universities is that often all of your grade for a course, all of it, depends on the final examination. And often it isn't mandatory to go to class, which essentially means that if your class is too full, if you don't like the professor, or if you don't find the course satisfying, you don't go to class. You lose interest, which also means that you have to self-study. And to be honest, I had to do a lot of it. And the reason that was also the case was because I came from a completely different system, which was closer to the American system, where your grade is staggered throughout the semester between different components, which means there'll be something like half-yearlies, class participation, group projects, and then maybe also a final examination. Most of the courses that I took at TUM only had final examinations. And let me tell you, final examinations were really hard, especially for engineering courses, which was not something that I expected. I'd expected that the masters would be a breeze. And exams are difficult was often reflected in the fact that libraries and study rooms were completely packed during exam season, even after midnight, and I found myself there quite often. Now, there were other type of courses where you could get points for research essays or group presentations, and these were the ones that I really tried to savor. Ultimately, I was fortunate enough to graduate with a 1.7 as my final grade. If you're thinking I failed, the German grading system is reversed, so 1 is the best and 4 is the worst. Here, I would say that while ultimately I was able to get a good, decent GPA, I had to struggle a lot to get used to the different system. And it didn't help that I was being surrounded by absolute geniuses who seemed to be doing so well. If you're someone who's also going through this, I can assure you it does get better. I still have to mention though that even in master's courses, you do have to put in the effort to get good grades. Let's now look at the last component. After I got into TUM, one thing that I was particularly anxious about was that I didn't know the language. Even though my course was in English, I found it hard to believe that I would be able to socialize or integrate into the culture without knowing the language. And that was definitely true for the first year of my life at TUM. And concurrently, while I worked on my language, I was able to get into touch with like-minded people in my second year who became some of my best friends. At the same time, I was able to join multiple student clubs which offer plenty of opportunities to socialize. And this is one thing that I truly appreciate about TUM, which is that it gives you the opportunity to study but at the same time apply what you've learned or do something completely different. I joined a student club through which I was able to go to the US, participate in a competition, win it, and come back. And it's one of my fondest memories in Germany. TUM, like other German universities, also gives you plenty of opportunities to party. But if you don't know already, I'm a bit of an introverted nerd, so I prefer to stay inside and sleep. Student life-wise, I would say it was a blast. It gave me enough time to study, but at the same time work alongside my study and do extracurricular activities. So all in all, was it worth it? I would say definitely. Looking back, the extra effort that it took to apply, as well as the really tough examinations, did not feel great at the time. And I, to be honest, felt like giving up multiple times. But looking back, it's been one of the most beautiful memories of my life. And if you're someone who's interested, I would also encourage you to apply because I hope you also get to experience this life.